Thank you, Jerry, so much. Thanks to all of you who are here. Yeah, and Jerry refers back to a time about 20 years ago where there was an attempt by the venture capital industry to take 30% of all the SBIR money. And so I did convene the meeting. I invited Steny Hoyer. Maryland had a lot of companies. I invited the other members. We put together the coalition, and we beat it back. We won. We protected the integrity of the SBIR program and the goals which it had in order to ensure that we were going to achieve the statutory goals which we had put in place initially. And so now we're at another stage of an attack. And we have to make sure that we continue to wage that battle. In Massachusetts, we've got great companies, Scientific Systems and Physical Sciences Incorporated, Giner Labs, Charles River Analytics, RMO, so many others who have benefited from this program, but in turn have benefited our country, have made sure that our country is able to derive the benefits of cutting-edge technological breakthroughs that otherwise would not have happened. And for over 40 years, SBIR has utilized our most nimble allies, you, our small businesses, to fuel our innovation economy. That's the goal, and it has been an unbelievably successful program. So whether it's energy or health or national security, SBIR has provided critical funding to develop innovative breakthrough technologies. SBIR funding has helped develop new cancer therapies, Alzheimer's treatments, led to the creation of the world's smallest heart pump. Without SBIR, Americans would not have novel technologies at their fingertips as they do today. The very popular LASIK eye surgery was developed in part due to SBIR funding. SBIR funded Qualcomm's wireless communications system. This program has gone above and beyond the expectations of those who enacted it. It works because of the merit-based competition that is at the very heart of the program. Darwinian, paranoia-inducing competition for these programs is what it's all about. And that's what drives innovation, that competition, that paranoia. And meaningful innovation almost always comes from small businesses and not from big corporations. Big corporations want to buy it once it's developed by a smaller company, but innovation inside of a big corporation is an oxymoron. It's like jumbo shrimp or Salt Lake City nightlife. I mean, it just doesn't exist. You have to have the smaller, more nimble companies who are out there, cutting edge, to make those breakthroughs. A big defense contractor doesn't have the incentive to invest in a one-off technology that could save the federal government hundreds of millions of dollars, but a small business in Massachusetts or any of the other 49 states did just that with an SBIR award. Today, we've gathered some of the most innovative small businesses from across the country. You delve into novel ideas and bring them to reality. And our country thanks you for that enormous contribution to our society. For small businesses like you, Eureka isn't just a moment, it's a mindset. You're constantly looking for that moment. For you, SBIR could also stand for Solve, Build, Imagine, Repeat. SBIR. Over and over again, driving this innovation system in our country. Your inventions and technologies have impacted countless lives in more ways than we can count or properly quantify. You have saved the federal government hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, while providing a huge return on investment. For every SBIR dollar spent, the program returns $22 to $33 in economic benefits for our economy. Since it was established in 1983, SBIR has benefited more than 30,000 companies, providing $70 billion in awards. And I'm particularly proud of the success of Massachusetts small businesses to secure these innovative awards. A big reason for that is our world-class universities, our investments in life sciences and biotechnology and clean energy, which has led to Massachusetts being home to 1 out of 10 R&D jobs in the United States of America. And again, Massachusetts is only 2% of America's population, but we have 10% of all of the R&D jobs in the United States. When they closed down Fort Devens and moved it south, we said, okay. When they shut down the Boston Navy Yard, sent it south, we said, okay. But when it comes to the Lincoln Labs, when it comes to Hanscom research at our Air Force Base for command, control, communications, when it comes to this incredible ecosystem built around the universities, you just can't move that anywhere. It's there, and it has served as a vital part of the long-term protection of the American people. So you have to render to where the innovation is taking place the credit which it deserves. And in Massachusetts, we're not just the Bay State, we're the brain state. So we try to figure that out while we see our bases move to other states and all those jobs. You have to divide the responsibilities. That's what SBIR does on a merit-based process that ensures that the best ideas that will help our country get the investment which they need. And the folks who are gathered here in this room are a testament to the fact that this program is not a red state and it's not a blue state program, with companies that are located in Texas and Ohio and Pennsylvania and California, all across the country. The program has an incredible higher than average success rate when it comes to bringing new companies into the program. For the last 2 years, 30% of awardees were first-time winners. Jerry just said that. 60% of those who won an award in the last 5 years were first-time winners. That's incredible, actually. That's bringing in the new ideas. That's bringing in the new people. But that doesn't mean we can't do more. We must help agencies like the Department of Defense and the Health and Human Services Department by providing congressional support to these efforts that have led to high numbers of new entrants. The bill that Ranking Member Velasquez and I have proposed would help diversify the applicant pool by allowing a portion of SBIR funding to assist businesses to develop competitive proposals. The bill would also allow SBIR funding to be used to establish internship and fellowship opportunities to help reach women and socially and economically disadvantaged people. And our bill would reauthorize the FAST program, whose mission is to increase the number of SBIR and STTR awards going to underperforming states. The SBIR program is a program that has a place for all types of inventors, all types of companies. Those who are new to the program, those who have honed in on how to do effective research and development, those who serve agencies' needs, those who take that one idea and run it until it grows into a big idea. It is the new ideas from different types of companies with different success models that make the program so special. Companies with ideas that can compete and can win. Because of this program's success over the decades, SBIR has always enjoyed bipartisan support. I don't often agree with Project 2025, but even a blind squirrel finds an acorn once in a while, and Project 2025 did. because it acknowledged that R&D through SBIR is disproportionately effective, and the program successfully funds the next wave of technological innovation. So I'm not able to completely disagree with Project 2025 because they did find one idea that they wanted to keep and to enhance. So it goes without saying that SBIR must be reauthorized before September 30th of this year. We have to reauthorize it. And I congratulate House Small Business Chair Williams and Ranking Member Velasquez on moving legislation forward to extend the authorization for one additional year. Just keep the program the way it is, and we'll continue to talk for another year so that we can have predictability, not controversy, so that we can have assurances that are given that this program is going to be there. Now, 1 year is, in my opinion, is too short, but it is necessary in order to avoid a lapse in the program. If SBIR is not reauthorized, $4 billion in R&D funding for small businesses will be at risk. And on top of other cuts we've seen, that would be devastating, and some companies may never recover. If the SBIR program ends or is substantially redesigned, we could miss out on that next great invention that goes on to save lives. That scientist with a great idea might need to rely solely upon private funding, which could mean abandoning their biggest ideas to pursue something deemed less risky. We should be lifting our gaze to the constellation of possibilities for our country, not forced to make sacrifices for short-term profits. Research cuts and a brain drain is the surest way to fall behind our international competitors. To invest in the future, you need to know there will be a future. We should be permanently extending the SBIR program to signal to inventors and investors that the federal government stands behind innovative small businesses. For decades, the United States economy has benefited from robust federal R&D investment. We have been the envy of the world in that regard. And there's an assault upon that leadership that's taking place across our country right now, in area after area. And the Chinese and others are looking on saying, what are they doing to themselves in this incredible innovation engine that they have created, that we are trying to replicate? What are they doing to themselves? And so that's why we have to stand up. We have to fight for innovation. We have to fight for the cutting edge. We have to fight for all of those things that actually make us special. We're only 4% of the world's population. We just have to make sure that we have a plan for that 4% to be the innovation capital of the world. And that plan is working with the SBIR program. Other countries are seeking to replicate what we already have and is indubitably working. We are the envy of the world in that regard. To keep feeding our innovation engine, we must immediately pass legislation that ensures this program will not go dark in a few weeks. It is my hope and belief that partisanship will not take us from a golden age of innovation into a dark age. Thank you all so much for coming to Washington this week. Congress is a stimulus response institution, and there's nothing more stimulating than business leaders knocking on the doors of their senators and House members, telling them that they're jeopardizing the economic and innovation well-being of their home states. So you're going to make a big difference here in terms of making sure that we're able to preserve SBIR, that we're able to ensure that it is there for generations to come. I can't thank you enough for everything you're doing. So just get out there, pound the corridors here, and I promise you that I'll give it all I have with my staff every single day until we are successful. Thank you all so much. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you all. It's great to be with you. I appreciate you all taking the time to come out. As was mentioned, I have a small business background, having run a 108-year-old family restaurant business. It's still going strong today. I've got other family members that are literally minding the store while I'm down here in Washington trying to do the people's work. But I appreciate how important time is in terms of a resource. And the fact that you can be here, that you can add your voice to the conversation around how we support the business community, how we invest in innovation in the future of this nation. Congress just doesn't get things right on its own, believe it or not. We need that outside engagement and input from stakeholders, from folks that understand how our economy works. And we're just really grateful that you took the time to be here. I think it's such an important moment, especially as we think about reauthorization for SBIR and where we can go for the future in this nation. We know that America's Seed Fund is a uniquely successful program that has helped foster innovation and ensure that we can develop the next generation of technologies, bringing many of these to the commercial market. I'm really proud to have supported on a bipartisan basis with my colleagues, SBIR and STTR throughout my time in Congress. And there's a growing group of us that are truly committed to making sure that we are extending authorizations and we're continuing to make sure that these investments will be able to roll forward in a way that our small businesses can count on them. So I've got serious concerns about some of the other proposals that we've seen that would drastically scale back or cut our commitment to our small businesses, which we know they need to be able to continue to fund groundbreaking new research and development. That proposed plan, as was mentioned, would cut 39% of funding to New Hampshire SBIR recipients, which would hurt our state's economy. It would hurt our ability to do important work. And I can cite a number of examples. I know there's one business owner here in the room, Jay from Creare up in Hanover, New Hampshire, creating high reliability, high performance electronics for NASA and commercial space flight. I think of a company that I visited in my district not too long ago that does plastic injection molding and manufacturing that's been a recipient. Another company that also does work with NASA that's developed high temperature components for heat shields that are being deployed right now by NASA. So these are all terrific examples of how this money can be put to good use for taxpayers, that it creates good paying jobs, it allows the United States to continue to have an innovative edge, and help build the future where the United States will continue to be able to lead. So these programs are important to our economy. They're mission critical with respect to our national security, our defense, our global competitiveness. And without this funding, we're really put at a strategic disadvantage at a time where we know we're continuing to navigate great power competition, including with adversaries like China. We cannot allow them to be outcompeting us or to be gaining any sort of advantage with respect to the 21st century economy. So I'm proud to be working to reauthorize SBIR and STTR and making sure that we're doing this on a bipartisan basis. There was some good news in the House recently where a clean extension was marked up. We'll keep working to hopefully go beyond just a one-year extension to doing this on a more permanent basis so that there's predictability and that it allows our business community to be able to plan more effectively. I recognize that in an environment, especially post-pandemic, where the challenges around supply chains, the challenges around workforce, and making sure that we're staffed up, navigating tax changes, as well as the trade issue, which is creating uncertainty for businesses right now. We've got to be providing every tool that we possibly can and ensure that government is a stabilizing force for our economy and is lifting up good ideas and innovative businesses that want to be a part of the solution. So we're looking forward to that September 30th date at the end of the month and hopeful that we're going to be able to clear a clean extension before then. But I'm really grateful that you're here and that you're part of the conversation. Please continue to reach out either as a group through your association or directly to your House and Senate members. That makes a difference. We have staff members that are really dialed in on these issues that benefit from your intellectual resources, but just getting out there and getting to know what some of you do across our country, it's incredibly impressive. I will continue to do that in my state, and I look forward to hearing more from you all as you share what you all do and help ensure that the United States is prepared for the future. Thanks very much for welcoming me here, and have a great, successful rest of your visit. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for that nice introduction, and please eat your lunch. Enjoy. I may join you soon, eating lunch. It's really nice to be here with all of you, and I'd like to know a little bit about those of you who are in the audience. I heard a little bit because some of the folks from New Hampshire Creare are here, and I had a chance to talk to Jay for a minute. But how many of you have gotten at least one SBIR award in your companies? How many have gotten more than 3 SBIR awards? Good. And I assume most of you are small businesses, since that's a qualification for an SBIR award. How many of you are from the Northeast? Midwest? Far West? South? Great. Who did I miss in the room? Hawaii, of course. Hawaii, Alaska, and Hawaii. All right. Mountain. Well, I consider that west, don't you? You don't consider that. See, I differentiate Southwest from the Far West, but anyway. Well, it's really nice to have all of you here. And as you heard, I've been supporting the SBIR program and continued extensions since I got to the Senate. And I've been on the Small Business Committee since 2009 when I arrived in the Senate. And I've actually been supporting SBIR for longer than that because, as some of you know, the program was sponsored, the legislation, original legislation was sponsored by Senator Warren Rudman from New Hampshire. And I can remember I was in the state Senate when this passed, and I can remember them coming in and briefing us about this new federal legislation that we needed to be taking advantage of. And it's been really exciting to see what has happened with SBIR, and a little frustrating to me that it's been so hard to get it reauthorized permanently, which I, of course, think we should do. New Hampshire's economy is really driven by small businesses. I'm sure that's true of most of the states that are represented here. And one of my favorite statistics that I always talk about when I talk about small businesses is that small businesses produce 16 times more patents than large businesses. And when we think about the ability that you all have to innovate and to produce the technologies that we need, not only across the economy, but particularly in the federal government, it explains why the SBIR program is so important. One of the examples that I think is helpful to use is from Creari, who was one of the original companies working with Senator Rudman when the program was created. I've had a chance to visit there on a couple of occasions, and one of their innovations is to help with new hearing protections for deck crews on the aircraft carrier ships. As many of you probably know, one of the most widespread injuries for people serving in the military is hearing loss. And our ability to help ensure that we can prevent hearing loss is not only important as we're looking at how we support our men and women in the military and defend this country, but it also saves money. You know, so it's kind of a no-brainer when we think about the benefits of the SBIR program to what we need to do within government. It's unfortunately, there are those in Congress who think that what we should be doing with the SBIR program is restricting companies' ability to get awards. So putting caps, as you all know, you're here to try and help us address that concern. I think what we've seen from the data is that a lifetime cap on SBIR awards doesn't actually bring new companies into the program. What it does is limits agencies' abilities to fully use the program in the way that's most beneficial to them in terms of the innovation that we're trying to achieve. Again, you all know this, but currently 30% of awardees are new to the program every year. And putting restrictions on that don't make any sense, I think, are not helpful either to all of you as you're trying to grow your companies and programs, but to the federal government and the agencies who we're trying to ensure get the innovation they need to operate. One of the stories that I heard that I think is particularly problematic is about an award that was rejected because one of the researchers had worked on a paper in college years before with a Chinese student. And I'm all about ensuring that we can compete with China and making sure they're not stealing our intellectual property. But I think we've got to be clear about those kinds of connections before we say a company is not eligible for an award. That doesn't make sense to me. So I'm hopeful that cooler heads will prevail, that we can persuade people, that all of you can help us persuade members of Congress that this is a program that makes a difference for your companies, that makes a difference for our economy writ large, and that makes a difference for federal agencies. And the argument that we should stop funding research and innovation because the PRC might copy our technology, I don't think makes sense in terms of the ability that we must have in order to compete with the Chinese. So I was pleased to see that the House has come up with a one-year extension to SBIR, and I think that your efforts to really help ensure that people understand the benefits of the program, why it doesn't make sense to put a cap on awards, why it doesn't make sense to put in some of these parameters is really important. You know, because I serve on the Armed Services Committee, I spend a lot of time talking to folks in the industry about the challenges that they face. And one of the things I hear regularly from people is about regulation, about budget cycles, about the challenge of working with the federal government. And when we put these kinds of limits and narrow the parameters of what we're willing to do, it really limits our ability to do what we need to do in defense, in innovation, in moving this economy forward. So go to it here during your time here as you're talking to members of the Senate and the House about what we need to do, because this is one of the programs that has been most successful, and we've got to make sure it continues to be so successful. So again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for what you're doing, and I look forward to checking in with you again when we've been successful at continuing SBIR. Thank you.
Well, needless to say, I am delighted to be here because I am such a huge supporter of both the SBIR and STTR programs. Thank you very much, Rebecca, for the introduction. Some of you may know that I had the pleasure of having Rebecca on my team for a number of years, and she was fantastic. So the firm that got her is really, really lucky. And I know that you all are one of the sponsors, right, of this event. And I love the fact that you put it right out there that you are part of an organization that says to save SBIR, right? Yeah, we should put it right out there because we have to reauthorize this program, otherwise it ends end of this month. You all know that, right? Do you feel a sense of urgency here? Okay, so I have all of these lovely remarks, but what the heck? I'm among friends in supporting SBIR and STTR, and you know, our country pays a lot of lip service to how small businesses are the heart of our economy and our country, basically. But when it comes to programs like SBIR and STTR, one wonders whether we really do acknowledge how important the entrepreneurism and the creativity of small businesses, how important they truly are. So here we are. By the way, I do want to give a shout out to Pat Sullivan of OceanNet. Stand up, Pat. So Pat, I've known Pat for a long time, and I think he is a fantastic advocate for SBIR and also has been a recipient of these very competitive grants. And he has been really, to me, the face of an organization, a company that really works hard to to provide creative solutions to challenges faced by DOD, for example. And so when I think of SBIR, I do think of Pat Sullivan. And so it's a shout out to you. And I don't know if there are any other people from Hawaii here. Okay. So another reason that Pat is so important is that Hawaii is, as it tries to diversify its economy, and high tech is one of the ways. Pat has stayed the course for decades, and having a faith that Hawaii has the kind of brain power and ideas that can support a science-based, technologically based firm as Oceanit is. So I know that you all represent that kind of perspective, and for 50 years, the SBIR and STTR programs have created literally thousands of jobs, promoted innovation that contributes to our communities, our competitiveness, and the ability of our country to compete against, let's face it, China, our pacing challenge. So what with how China is basically, to some people, outpacing us in terms of their construction. They are able to build high-speed rail in 3 years, and for $3 billion, something that connected Beijing and Shanghai, whereas over a decade, California still has not been able to do that. So there is a contrast in terms of the kind of competitiveness that China poses. So it is so important, especially at a time like this, that we continue to support the innovation and creativity that SBIR and STTR supports. And I was just talking with Pat Sullivan as I was coming in. I don't know how many of you have read the recent Atlantic article, "A Nation of Lawyers Confronts China's Engineering State." How many of you have read this article? What? Only Pat? Hey, you guys obviously have to do a heck of a lot better, people. But it's an interesting perspective because this is written by Dan Wang, a China expert. He's also an economic expert, et cetera. I believe he's at Yale. Is he at Yale? Somebody on my staff, hello? Yes. So he writes this article about how China is outpacing us in many ways because Xi Jinping has surrounded himself with engineers whose goal is to build stuff and pretty much move things along in that regard, whereas our country is surrounded by lawyers. Half of the U.S. Senate are lawyers. Did you know that? Not that it's wrong, because Rebecca and I are both lawyers, for example. So, but if you have a chance to read this article, it is really interesting. And this writer is not saying that we should just use, what China is doing, because they do have a few issues such as human rights and those kinds of things. But my gosh, this writer's perspective is that we can incorporate some of the let's get it done attitude as reflected in China with our concern about equal protections, et cetera. And we know what's really interesting to me, at a time when we have a regime that is very much against diversity and wants to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusiveness, this writer says that one of the major things that we have going for us is our plurality, is the fact that we can turn to the diversity of our brain power, our country, in order to get to the point where we can compete much more effectively vis-a-vis China, and all for the better of our own country and our communities. So food for thought. Meanwhile, I am with you in the need to make sure that we authorize these programs. Really, really critical. And I think part of what needs to happen is people need to understand how important these programs are. I think it tends to be sort of esoteric, because the people go, what? What's that? well, it truly is an underpinning of the kind of creativity, entrepreneurship, and risk-taking that our country needs to support. So I thank you for all that. Mahalo, everybody.
Well, I'm really grateful to Defend SBIR for inviting me to be, and for each and every one of you for being here today. Today is day 250 for me on the job, and it's been an eventful year. I am a lawyer. Just a confession up front. I'm the second lawyer in my family. My younger brother John was the first lawyer in our family, and we're both fourth generation offspring of small business entrepreneurs and workers, and so I live with the regret every day that I'm a lawyer, but I carry the Constitution with me everywhere I go because it's pretty useful on the job these days when questions big and small have been really put on the table. But I am on the Small Business Committee, and I'm on the Armed Services Committee, and SBIR and STTR are the programs that, to me, combine the work of both committees. You know, I believe in small business. I believe deeply that small business is the beating heart of the American economy and really an expression of the American dream. And it's not just because I'm the great-granddaughter of a family farmer, you know, a small business person who got his start. My dad, you know, who never graduated from college, he always said he got his education in the Navy, but he really got his education starting a small business in my hometown, Nashua, New Hampshire. But I also believe in small business because before coming to Congress, I was an anti-monopoly prosecutor at the Justice Department, where I was obsessed with trying to level the playing field for small business. And we've got a lot of work to do to make that so. But I believe in the enterprise, and I believe in these programs. And I believe in them because I have seen them in practice across New Hampshire. You know, I don't need to tell any of you, because you're all in business and supporting small businesses. I don't know that we've seen a time. I'd love to know if there's been a time when it's been tougher for small business in America, because it would be important to study that time in history and to understand how we moved through it. But as I've traveled across New Hampshire, you know, from trade wars that are sowing uncertainty, when uncertainty is not good for business, to massive legislation, this big rural budget bill, which is making tectonic changes that are, I'm sure, touching every single person in this room. But the small businesses that I'm proud to represent have the kind of can-do spirit that we need in America, and that's honestly what someone asked me this morning, what gets you up in the morning? It's that you're out there doing the work, and the best things in our country's history have come from the partnership between public commitment and private ingenuity, and that is a great tradition that I believe is our inheritance, and that I'm working every day to protect. You know, I believe in these programs too because amazingly we've got Dr. Jay Rozzi here. Where are you, Jay? Jay is do we have anyone else from New Hampshire here? Hey, all right. Well, that's 3. So I'm counting 3 Granite Staters and a room full of future Granite Staters, because it is the best state in America. It's not just because our slogan is "Live Free or Die." We've got a lot going for us, but I want to give a shout out to you, Jay, because creare, which means in Latin to create, was really present at the creation of the SBIR and STTR programs 40 years ago. These are 4 decades of bipartisan commitment to one of the most American ideas that we could ever imagine. And what your small business has been able to do for our state and our country is a model for the world. And I'm grateful to you. Is PSI in the house? All right, PSI. I know you're Massachusetts-based technically, but I'm gonna count you as New Hampshire, just like Daniel Webster. So look, yesterday was a good day in the Small Business Committee. We reauthorized the programs for 1 year. That's a good start. We got to get that done in the Senate. I really wanted desperately for that to happen in the National Defense Authorization Act. We ran into the age-old problem in the United States Congress, jurisdiction. But look, however we have to get this done, we've got to get it done for a year. But what I want to leave with you and what I want to say to you is we've got to use this year, every day in this year, to make these to make these programs as great as they can possibly be. Not just defending them, but strengthening them and building on them. And so I'm everywhere I've gone in my district, and I make this offer to you. I'm collecting ideas. I hope you'll reach out to us because you are living the journey of working with these programs. And sometimes a federal program can test your patriotism in ways that it shouldn't, because it's just too hard. And a small business shouldn't have to hire an army of lawyers to be able to participate in a program that was designed for you. And I say that as a lawyer. We want your ideas, we need your ideas, because we've got to make these programs and build on them, not just reauthorizing them for a short time horizon, but building and strengthening them in a way that they will endure for generations to come. And I believe we can and must do this because, again, these are the most American kinds of ideas and the most American kinds of programs. We need you, we need your help. So I hope you'll reach out. I'm here. I should have my visitor's badge since we're on the other side. But the United States Senate is where I had my first job out of college, and it was 15 years ago. I'll never forget walking through those doors over there and not having any form of ID, so that the negotiations ensued over how I was going to get to my first day on the job. But I was blessed to have 4 years working in the United States Senate for 2 members of Congress who really invented a kind of bipartisan collaboration, John McCain and Joe Lieberman, the 3 amigos. And if Senator Graham were here, I would say, let's start a bicameral amigo coalition and find ways to work together. This is the spirit I'm trying to bring to this work, because you teach us in what you do that there is no time for nonsense. And there's a whole lot of nonsense in this branch of government and across our government that we've got to cut through. So my initials are MTG. I say that with full knowledge that not everyone whose initials are MTG feels this way. But I'm never going to give up hope and try to find ways to work with absolutely anybody to do what I think is my job, which is to give you the programs and the tools and the resources to thrive, because our country needs you. So thank you so much for having me, and please stay in touch. And I will say in closing, in New Hampshire, I never appear without taking questions. So it feels a little odd to leave you with that, but I'll leave you with the invitation that I hope you'll reach out and stay in touch. So thank you, and enjoy the day.